The counterculture grew out of the Beats movement emphasis on freedom from materialism and the civil rights movement's questioning of traditional boundaries. The Vietnam War movement's distrust of authority fostered a spirit of rebellion. Hippies, member of the counterculture, valued youth, spontaneity, and individuality. They promoted peace, love, and freedom. Their experimentation with drugs, new styles of dress and music, and freer attitudes towards sexual relationships contradicted traditional values and boundaries. This rebellion led to misunderstanding between older and younger generations, a situation that was called the Generation Gap. Born after World War II, the younger generation had an enormous influence on American society, driving changes in attitudes and styles in everything from clothes to music and art. Rock and roll bands like the Beatles came to define the decade. Hippies rejected many traditional restrictions on sexual behavior in what became known as the sexual revolution. Many also often adopted a new living situation, living in small communes or communities. The center of the counterculture was the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco. Hippies experimented with drugs and listened to rock music and speeches by political radicals such as Timothy Leary, who encouraged youths to tune in, turn on to drugs, and drop out of mainstream society. Some hippies sought to live off the land in harmony with nature. These beliefs impacted the growing environmental movement. By the late 1960s, several key figures of the counterculture were dead of drug overdoses, and many people had become disillusioned with the movement's excess. Most hippies eventually rejoined the mainstream, but the seed of protest sown during the 1960s would influence the growing rights revolution. The theory of political, social, and economic equality for men and women began in the 1960s. In the 1960s, women wanted to change how they were treated as a group and to redefine how they were viewed as individuals. Activists such as Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan led the movement. Betty Friedan wrote Feminine Mystique and organized the National Organization for Women, or NOW, campaigned for the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment that guaranteed gender equality under the law. Title IX of the Higher Education Act of 1972 banned discrimination in education. Equal credit opportunity made it illegal to deny credit to a woman on the basis of gender. Following the lead of the civil rights movement, Latinos began fighting for their rights. Cesar Chavez was the leading activist and formed the United Farm Workers, or the UFW. Chicano movement worked to raise consciousness, reduce poverty and discrimination, and attain political power for Latinos. The American Indian Movement, or AIM, led for greater rights for Native Americans, including resources on reservations. Other rights revolutions were the consumer safety in terms of automobile safety and Americans with disability that wanted equal access to education. Environmental awareness led to change. Congress restricted the use of pesticide DDT, established Earth Day, and established the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. The EPA works to clean up and protect the environment and seeks to limit or eliminate pollutants that pose risk to the public's health. In 1970, the Clean Air Act, which combated air pollution by limiting the emissions from factories and automobiles, was passed. In 1973, the Clean Water Act followed, which reduced water pollution by industry and agriculture. Also in 1973, Endangered Species Act helped to protect endangered plants and animals.